The drama surrounding Gervonta Tank Davis and Jake Paul has evolved into one of the most surreal stories in modern boxing. A bizarre collision of legacy and spectacle, power and popularity. But when news broke that Davis had been sparring with none other than Terence Crawford, arguably the best pound-for-pound boxer on the planet, ahead of his fight with Jake Paul, the internet ignited. It wasn't just a rumor, it was a revelation. Footage surfaced of Tank trading crisp combinations with Crawford, two of boxing's sharpest tacticians testing each other in a closed gym. Crawford's precision forced Tank to adjust on the fly, to find angles against a man who sees everything coming. For Davis, this wasn't just sparring, it was sharpening steel on steel. And for Jake Paul, it was a warning that his next opponent wasn't approaching this fight as a sideshow. Tank's training camp looked different this time. Observers like the Wade concept noted a new energy in his movements, a sharper edge in his demeanor. In past camps, Davis was known for moments of levity between rounds, for laughing with his trainers or flashing that confident grin. But now there was none of that. Every punch looked like it carried purpose, every drill like a declaration. He wasn't training to entertain, he was training to destroy. The shift was so visible that fans began speculating that Tank wanted not just to win, but to end Jake Paul's experiment in boxing once and for all. The contrast between the two men couldn't be starker. Jake Paul, standing around 6'3" and weighing close to 200 pounds, towers over the 5'5" Tank Davis. To the casual eye, it looks absurd. The YouTuber turned boxer facing off against one of the most explosive punchers of this generation, yet one giving up nearly 70 pounds. Critics called it a circus, a publicity stunt dressed in gloves, but those who've seen Davis fight know better. They know his knockout power isn't confined to his weight class. It's built on timing, precision, and ruthless execution. When Crawford sparred with Tank, it wasn't just practice. It was mentorship. Crawford, himself a southpaw magician, mimicked what Jake Paul might try, using reach, power, and patience to keep Tank at bay. But Crawford also showed Tank what to do in response, how to pivot, how to slice through the guard, and how to turn a taller man into a target. The sparring clips showed Tank digging to the body, slipping, pivoting, and unleashing those trademark hooks to the ribs, shots that make even heavyweights wince. If Jake Paul thought his frame alone could save him, he was in for a rude awakening. Meanwhile, Jake was putting in work of his own. Reports said he had been sparring with smaller, quicker fighters, trying to simulate Tank's speed and movement. It was a smart strategy on paper, but everyone knew the truth. There's only one Gervonta Davis. His explosiveness, his head movement, his ability to disappear mid-combination and reappear with a counter, that can't be replicated. Still, Jake looked confident. His team posted clips of him working the bag, holding a high guard, and cracking heavy shots that echoed through the gym. He looked strong, but in the background, you could sense the uncertainty. Analyst Showbiz the Adult broke it down best. He reminded fans that Tank had already beaten bigger fighters, guys like Mario Barrios, who stood at 6 feet tall and fought with far more technical discipline than Jake Paul. Showbiz pointed to that fight as proof that size doesn't guarantee survival. When Tank wants to close the distance, he will. When he wants to land, he does. The question, he said, wasn't whether Tank could reach Jake. It was whether Jake could handle what came when he did, and the footage doesn't lie. The reach difference that everyone talks about? It's smaller in practice than people think. Tank's compact frame lets him explode forward with short, brutal bursts that cover ground in milliseconds. You can be taller, longer, heavier, but you won't see that left hand coming. The real question is, can he hurt Jake Paul through the bigger gloves, through the heavier frame? Because Jake won't weigh 195 on fight night. He'll likely walk in over 210 pounds. That's a cruiserweight versus a lightweight, a giant against a spark plug. But the laws of boxing don't always bend to physics. Footage of Tank's most recent training sessions showed a man possessed. He pounded the heavy bag, a 300-pound monster that barely swayed under his punches. The sound of each shot was like a thunderclap. He worked angles, ducked, and fired body shots that seemed designed to break bones. Fans flooded the comments. This isn't an exhibition anymore. They were right. Whatever the official label, Tank Davis was training for war. Terence Crawford himself spoke about the fight with measured honesty. He didn't dismiss Jake Paul's chances outright. Instead, he acknowledged the reality. Jake's size gives him a real edge, and if he uses his jab and range effectively, he could make the night difficult. But Crawford also knows how skill levels can tilt a fight, how one mistake can erase pounds of advantage. He said Tank's explosiveness could shock Jake, that his timing could pierce through the bigger man's defense before Jake even realizes it's happening. Coming from a man like Crawford, that kind of balanced respect speaks volumes. Still, the skeptics are loud. Many see this fight as a sideshow, another influencer stunt blurring the line between real boxing and entertainment. Purists groan that Tank should be chasing legacy fights, not novelty spectacles. After all, fans have been clamoring for matchups with Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, and the top lightweights of his generation. Instead, he's fighting Jake Paul in what's technically an exhibition. For many, that feels like a detour from greatness. Tank, however, brushed off the criticism. In the press conference, he smiled, shrugged, and said fans should just enjoy the show. "Haters will be haters," he told reporters, comparing his scrutiny to what Floyd Mayweather endured. But the difference is clear. Mayweather built his empire on fighting champions in their prime, crafting a resume that silenced doubt with every victory. Tank's record, though impressive, hasn't faced that same gauntlet. Aside from Ryan Garcia, who came with his own hype, Tank's recent opponents haven't been the elite names fans have begged for. That's why some view this Jake Paul fight not as evolution, but as evasion. And yet, the fight remains fascinating, because it represents something bigger than either man. Boxing has changed. Legacy isn't the only currency anymore. As former champion Chris Algieri put it, Jake Paul has reshaped how the sport reaches people. He's made boxing mainstream again, blending influencer culture with combat, and whether you love or hate it, the formula works. Pay-per-view numbers prove it. Younger audiences who once ignored boxing now stream weigh-ins and watch breakdowns. Jake Paul may not be a traditional boxer, but he's undeniably changed the conversation. Others disagree. Some insiders argue that this kind of crossover spectacle cheapens the sport. They point out how fighters like Andre Ward and Shakur Stevenson, class acts with elite skill, struggled for marketing compared to fighters who played into flashier, rougher personas. The industry, they say, rewards theatrics over talent. And in that landscape, a fight like Tank versus Jake Paul feels like both a symptom and a statement. What's undeniable is that this fight, win or lose, will set a tone for the future. If Jake Paul wins, it validates the influencer model completely, a sign that star power can rival skill. If Tank wins, especially by knockout, it reaffirms that boxing still belongs to the technicians, to those who live and breathe the craft. Either way, the result will ripple across the sport, because beneath all the noise, this isn't just about Tank and Jake. It's about the question of what boxing is becoming. The purists and promoters are locked in a silent war, skill versus spectacle, discipline versus virality. Fights like this force everyone to take sides, and yet, the most poetic thing about it all is that in the ring, everything still comes down to the same truths. Feet before fists, timing before muscle, discipline before clout. Tank wins if he stays patient, if he remains the predator who sets traps and springs them with split-second precision. Jake wins if he keeps his composure, uses his reach, and forces Tank to overcommit. But the moment Jake gets greedy, the moment that jab slows or the guard drops, Tank will be there. He's not looking to outbox Jake Paul. He's looking to break him. As one analyst put it, size helps until it doesn't. Big muscles need oxygen. They need rest. By the fifth round, the forklift gets tired, and that's when the smaller man takes over. Tank's body shots are like taxes. You don't notice them at first, but by the later rounds, they've collected everything you owe. The liver doesn't care how tall you are. Still, there's uncertainty in the air. It's an exhibition, meaning it won't count toward either man's professional record. Some insiders even hinted there might be unwritten rules. Not to go for the kill, not to chase knockouts. But if you've watched Tank fight, you know one thing. Once he smells blood, there's no holding back. Exhibition or not, he fights with finality. Former super middleweight contender Jesse Hart defended Tank's decision to take the fight. He said it's not about legacy, it's about understanding the modern boxing economy. Fighters have a short window to make life-changing money, and if that means facing a YouTuber for millions, who are we to judge? Hart himself admitted he took fights while injured for financial reasons. To him, Tank's move isn't cowardice, it's pragmatism. But he also warned that legacy can vanish faster than a payday. When you leave behind the fights people wanted, Hart say. Continues to echo across the sport. Tom Aspinall is at home, healing and reflecting. His supporters call for patience. His critics demand proof. Cyril Gane is waiting for a rematch that could redeem his name or ruin it again. Umar Nurmagomedov is chasing revenge. Islam Makhachev is balancing pressure and preparation. And Ilya Topuria, ever the showman, is reminding everyone that fighting is only part of the story. UFC 321 may have ended with boos, but its aftershocks are shaping the future of multiple divisions. And for fans, it's a reminder of why they keep watching, because in this sport, anything can happen. One moment you're on top of the world, the next you're fighting to explain yourself from a hospital bed. If you enjoyed this breakdown of all the chaos surrounding UFC 321 and beyond, drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Tom Aspinall was right to stop the fight? Should the rematch with Cyril Gane happen right away? And can Umar Nurmagomedov and Islam Makhachev reclaim their dominance in 2025? Let's hear what you think. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories that go beyond the cage, where every fight is more than just a fight. It's a story of pain, pride, and redemption.